the sun in that place, then I'd go home, so far away. I'd turn a stone in that place.
And the river comes down and it goes round here by Lesign, Lung and down to Ballaghaderreen. Everyone would know what the cut was. The river came down and it came kind of in a big meander from the Hollistia River. It was coming down in a big meander, and the meander was going over towards Lesign, over round there, and came right back down here. And it just cut through the meander. This was the cut. This is an unnatural cut, if you like. And the other one is over beyond John Frayne's. The natural run is over there.
How long is this piece?
It's about, I'd say, 500 yards.
About 500 yards, yeah.
About 500 or 600 yards. But it was very, it's a lot deeper than you think.
So you can knock a dig in, isn't it?
This is absolutely, look out with spades and shovels. And they were queuing up. Every young fellow was trying to get to start with a spade and a shovel. Well, what you're looking at here is a local place called the Cut, and it was cut out of the ground. It's a kind of a false bed of the river, but it was dug out to bring water down here from about 600 metres up there to cut off send down the water down here where there was a powerhouse and a turbine here to make electricity for the town of Ballaghderreen. That electricity was then brought into town and it was controlled from a place called the Powerhouse. Now, this was all done by hand. All this was done by hand. It's 20 to 25 feet or maybe more in places where it was dug up, and it was stepped up. So it was like if you were cutting turf long ago, when you'd be putting it up from one length and then somebody else shoveled it up to the next step and the next step and the next step until it was down low enough. Now, as you can see here, the water is coming down here. It's part of the Lung River, and part of it comes into a V here. There's a place going down there straight, which we'll talk about later, and then this was the place where the water was brought into for the power. Now, just in here where you see these steel girders, that was a kind of a gate or a sluice, and it was worked on a wheel, and it was like a rollover garage door, only that instead of pressing the button, there was a wheel here on top, and you could lift it up. You can see where the door was. You see the opening there? Yeah. Now, that's where that door was able to go up and come down. And it was regulated. Yeah. And then when it goes in there, we'll show you the other side where the turbine was. Now, the turbine that was in it, or whatever it's called, Tom Collum knows more about it than me. It's in an FDK at the moment. But I know when it was there, it was like a vat, you know the old, what you call them, where you have the milk, you know them, with the water whirling around in it. Yeah, you know the way when you go down the sink, the way the water whirls around. Well, it used to be, the noise out of it was like thunder, you know, when it would go. And that was what was making that was what doing the turbine. It wasn't that there was an awful pile of water in it, but it was just the force of it that was going in. Of course, that was developed, and it was new machinery brought in over the years when it went up first, and then eventually it wasn't economic to run. There was a better source of electricity, so this became obsolete, and it was just left here as it was. And there was a man here all the time early on, and he regulated. He was here 24 hours a day to regulate the amount of water that was going in there. Well, it mightn't be the same man now, but there were people who were in charge of it. This was the pool, swimming pool. That was the steps down through there, right? This was where the kids could jump in, and it was down to that wall down there. Now what do you... What? To the great side. Now one of the disadvantages was that the slope and but down at the bottom, there was a sluice gate. And you could lift it up, you could lift it from the top there, lift it up in the evening, and the water went out. And they'd rinse it out, because there'd be water coming down here, they'd have that thing there closed off.
Where's the filter?
The river. Now what they did was, they found the gate, and all the water came here, so to clean it out, right? Then they put down the sluice gate again, fill it up, and open that gate, and the water went off down there. So it was cleaned every evening. Now there was, when we were kids, now I wasn't a great swimmer, I'd be here, but I know there'd be hundreds, you know, you were talking about hundreds, there was galas here. You were here, Parry, were you a swimmer? Did you? Well, there was galas here. I mean, there was big crowds here, there was medals, it was big stuff. And now it was dangerous, I suppose, in so far as there was a power of kids coming out of town, and the roads were getting busy, and there were, you know, some kids and big kids, and there was bikes, and there was so on. And then it was condemned on health issues because the water wasn't, you know, there was no way you could kind of disinfect it like you would an ordinary pool. I only know there was, at the very end, there was one fatality in it. A lad that was working with the crowd that were doing Turn Academy. And he came in here, and whatever happened anyway, they don't know whether he hit his head on the side or whether he hit on the bottom, but he had injuries. Now that's the, I don't know which is which, but those are the dressing rooms. The ladies, women's and men, and the toilet is round there. This is dangerous enough down here. It's very cut up and that, so we mightn't bother going down. But that's the junior pool down there, the toddler pool. And that got a bit of a shelter now. A lot of this has been done with the force of the water coming down, like, you know, it's consistently done. But that was the toddler's pool, and that was the pipe that was coming from up there to fill it. And you know, to fill it. So, but that was it, like, I mean, that was all voluntary. It was, you know, there was powerful work done in those years in a small community to make that thing as viable, you know, as it was. It was a real... It was a power of work, an absolute power of work. Now this was all done voluntary by a fiercely committed group of people at the time who were in the town. Brian Kelly, I know, would have been the main man, I suppose, organising it and all that, but I know there was a Father Colin from the college, originally from Sligo, and there were many, many more, but they would be the kind of the focal point of the development here. And it was a fantastic amenity for kids when you think back in the 60s and 70s. We have no swimming pool in Ballaghderreen for a long time, and this was here for benefits. There were galas here, there were swimmers who went on to, you know, to practice, you know, in bigger pools in the time, but everybody got a chance. There were lifeguards here during the summer, trained lifeguards. Now that's where the turbine, or where the turbine was down there, and it was like a big bowl, and when the water went in, it whizzed round, and that's what generated the power. And that's actually very dangerous now, as you can see, because it's half covered, but I wouldn't like to test that cover. But the rest of it is down there, and the flow of water, even when there's not much water going through, the force that comes through it is fairly substantial, because it narrows as you come into it. So it's kind of all geared to come down into this narrow opening, and away she goes. Down here now, that's all white and foamy. That's coming from the cut, and that's the rest of the river coming down there. So when they meet up here, so like that's the Lung River, and it's hitting off down there. On its way, it goes round in another big meander now before it comes to the town, or halfway into town. It comes round in another meander, and it goes to down through Ballaghderdreen, and then makes its way to the both Lough Garas, upper Lough Gara, and then the far into that you go onto the Boyle River, and you go on to Lough Key, and you go on to the Shannon. So we could go to America from here if we wanted on a boat without touching land. if everything else went in our favours.